try to tell you how I feel, and your response to me is unreal. And do you hear me anyway? The things you think are alright, I'm sure they help you sleep well at night. But when you wake, was it a dream or a nightmare? We're at a crossroad once again, between the enemy and our friend. Which way we'll go, time will tell. You say my words you can't understand. You move along just like you had planned. But can't we stop to see the wake? I see the wreckage through the waves, from the way each one of us behaves. Go out of line to save a life. It seems we've been here once before, and you're still miles and miles from the shore. And do you hear me anyway? So there you have it. Deep thinkers, welcome back to my channel. Do you hear me? Anyway, today's January the 13th, 2024. And once again, I'm putting to use some content that I've used before. Someone recently asked me on another post something, or they didn't ask me, but they suggested that I was going to milk a certain clip for all it was worth. The irony in all of this is that the person pointing that out probably does everything they can to milk every bit of opportunity that they see as favorable out of whatever opportunity presents itself to them. Stay tuned. All right. So that sort of situation that presented itself, I'll call it an idiosyncraticity, it emphasized some of what I'm talking about. So across the street, there's a delivery being received, which caused my dog to bark, which caused me to temporarily pause what I was doing. I wasn't ever looking back and losing sight of the plow that I was pushing to till this earth, as is my opportunity. And because of that, I was able to remember where I stopped in the conversation and what I wanted to continue to present. Because again, you're on my page. This is YouTube. If you'd like to start your own channel that milks whatever scene you want to see or not see all the time, please, I encourage you to start your own page in order to attract the viewership that you're attempting to attract. For me, what I really would like to attract is positivity. People who are kind, people who are courageous. And I know a lot of people who are positive, kind, and courageous. And I also know a lot of people who are, let's call it, conflict avoidant. And because many of us are conflict avoidant, we don't ever attempt to tell someone how we feel. And because of that, we carry a lot of unrest within ourselves. And that unrest sometimes can spill over when we initially begin having conversations with one another. And as we spill out conversations without thinking, sometimes a lot of hostility will come out in the form of attack. And so for a lot of bullies out there who use derogatory words, just as an example, when people talk with me and they use language in a very condescending way, not even sarcastic, not joking, but a very vindictive way, cursing. Whenever people in my proximity are cursing one another, it is, for some reason, I guess the power of Christ compels me, I have to say something about that. That's truth. And perhaps it's only because of, in my own past, having attempted to cover up the truth in many cases by just kind of flying under the radar, doing the bare minimum to not rock the boat. I just heard someone speak, a really great presenter, who talked about when it comes to spiritual battles, how if we're not rocking the boat and we're not ourselves progressing in a way that would allow us to succeed, some people would, let's say the entity that would come to kill, steal, and destroy, would potentially help someone to overlook the fact that we're miles and miles from the shore. Like if I was telling you, hey, we're in a riptide, we're getting pulled out into the riptide, and you were so angry about one political party versus the other, or some situation that just didn't quite make sense, that you were still being pulled out in the riptide because you were fighting, you were possessed by anger. What is my job at that point? Besides to try and at least kindly tell you how I feel about a circumstance. And if that circumstance is going to lead someone into danger, it's my obligation to share that insight with you. In this case, the viewer. Now, in my circumstance, I know who some of my viewers are personally. And that's the same as anyone who has their own channel or page or whatever. The thing is, though, that there are a lot of people who would not want to engage with that person regularly. And so, and what I mean by that is we have a lot of, let's call it false flags, false friends, false friendships, false relationships. A lot of our relationships are built around lines of employment. And as we start to tear down those things that we do by choice and restructure them around things that we do because we feel free, we start to recognize that sometimes the choices that are advertised to us might not be the same as the available choices that are there for everyone who is truly free to make choices. In this particular case, I chose to present a song to you that I've presented before. This time I did it on a guitar that came out of the trash that I've restored. And I want to tell you a little ironic story about the fact that not too terribly long ago, in terms of humanity and in terms of our own individual lifespans, my father found a guitar in the dumpster. He was dumpster diving for it. And this is something that I always found kind of hard to even say publicly, because the ego starts to tell you, well, hey, no one wants to share that their dad did this, that, or the other, or their mom did this, that, or the other, or their parent did, or their friend, or whoever. But in my particular circumstance, as the progression of certain activities that my dad was doing advanced to a stage where he became destructive, in addition to trying to find a way to be productive, I felt like there was some anger that would come out on certain occasions, and it would come out in very specific ways. The first way felt like what, if you looked up the definition for it, and I'm not talking about racism or what have you, but if you look up bigotry, there's something about a segment that can associate with another segment and then basically disregard all other segments. Like some of us disregard nature. Nature is the very elemental thing that allowed you to view this. All of your belongings are made by nature, as are you. So as we disregard one another, sometimes arguing out to sea, we run into situations where maybe one or more of us might start asking, do you hear me? Can you hear me? And if you can't hear me, I'd like you to hear yourself sometimes. And for that reason, the only thing I could think to do was to share the content that I've shared in the past that is overwhelmingly popular and also that is overwhelmingly sometimes difficult to talk through. And I wanted to do that on this channel, not just today, but every day, not just on the day, subsequent days after or before somebody's birthday, or on their birthday, or on their death day, every day. Because this is what we are supposed to have the freedom to be able to do, to learn with each other, with one another. And if we can't sharpen ourselves with one another, then it's possible we need to broaden our audience. So I'd like to invite you to help me broaden my audience by being sure to click on the thumbs up, by clicking on subscribe, and by sharing this content, which I know you have found marginally of interest at minimum. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching it right now, right? So you're watching it right now. Some are wondering, what are you doing, Why are you presenting these things over and over? And others of you might just not be confident enough to use your voice yet. And some of you probably are confident enough to use your voice. And in a lot of cases, these are the people who have actual discussions to completion, whether or not somebody else is in their proximity. So I've met a few of you. I know that some of you are watching these videos right now and you're trying to figure out, well, how do I reciprocate this energy? Just keep doing what you're doing. Everything that we've done to this point has helped us to return to this point in time where we are at right now in order to complete something. So whatever it is you feel has been incomplete, left out of the attention of one another, the first actions that need to happen in order to begin all of the rest of the action might be to bypass the inaction. So until next time, thank you so much for watching. Peace, love, and all that old school stuff.